This is The Briefing. I'm Susannah Streeter. Our top stories. Israel and Palestinian authorities declare a state of emergency and place Bethlehem under quarantine following 7 cases of coronavirus in the city. The US Vice President promises to help authorities keep track of the virus as hundreds of holidaymakers are stranded on a cruise ship being prevented from docking in San Francisco. A ceasefire in Syria's Idlib province. But civilians are still counting the cost after months of brutal conflict.
This is from the bomb?
Yes. Civilians. We are civilians.
In business, trouble in the pipeline. Crude prices slump further as virus fears grow. Can oil producers do anything to stop the slide? Hello and a warm welcome to the programme, briefing you on all you need to know in global news, business and sport. And you could be part of the conversation because Twitter is trialling a new version of tweets named Fleets, which disappear after they're posted. It's similar to the stories featured on Snapchat and Instagram. Will this make people more expressive on the platform? Tell us what you think. Just use the hashtag BBC The Briefing. The city of Bethlehem has been put under quarantine and a state of emergency has been declared after 7 people were diagnosed with the coronavirus. The Israeli Defense Minister ordered the army to enforce the closure in coordination with the Palestinian Authority. The increased security measures come after violent demonstrations stopped the patients from being taken to hospital. Our Middle East correspondent Anna Foster has this report.
Angry protests on the streets of Jericho. This was where the Palestinian Authority planned to treat its coronavirus patients, but they aren't wanted here. In Bethlehem, there's real concern. The main checkpoint into Israel was closed, and people have been told they can only leave in an emergency.
The infected workers are all from this hotel. They'd been in contact with a group of Greek tourists who tested positive once they returned home. This place is now closed, as are all hotels in Bethlehem. They've been told they can't accept any new tourists for the next 14 days.
That's what we're trying to do.
Antoine is being quarantined inside, along with the 7 people who've tested positive. They're on a separate floor, but without medical treatment, he says. Official information is scarce.
We've done tests, we haven't received any information back, and that's part of our struggle, that we're not getting really much information, whether from the ministries of health or...
Even the world's oldest church has been forced to close its doors. Thousands of people pass through the Church of the Nativity every day to touch the spot where Christians believe Jesus was born. And now, that's a problem.
We have kind of these icons, and every place they have to touch all the columns there, and even the star where Jesus was born. So that's why it's just really, if someone have this kind of viruses, it just easily will transmit to him.
All public places like this have been shut down to try and contain the spread of the virus.
Sad for closing, not even the church. Bethlehem, they are closing all Bethlehem, you know what I mean? Nothing to do now. And as you know, Bethlehem depends 100% on pilgrim and tourists.
This city relies heavily on visitors from around the world. As a state of emergency is declared, it's now bracing for a double hit to the health of its people and to its fragile economy. Anna Foster, BBC News, Bethlehem.
Governments around the world are racing to contain the coronavirus and bracing for the economic impact. US Vice President Mike Pence, who is coordinating the American response, promised measures to help authorities there keep track of the virus. Our correspondent Peter Bowes is in Los Angeles with the latest on a cruise ship that hasn't been allowed to dock in San Francisco.
Another cruise liner paralysed by the coronavirus. The Grand Princess, with 3,500 passengers and crew on board, has been barred from docking in San Francisco after cutting short a trip from Hawaii. A 71-year-old man died after taking an earlier round-trip cruise on the ship to Mexico. Officials say he had underlying health conditions. Another passenger was also infected. Helicopters operated by the US Coast Guard dropped sampling kits onto the ship for a medical team on board to administer tests for the virus. Less than 100 people with flu-like symptoms have been identified as needing the test. Passengers have been told to stay in their cabins.
Everything was running through my head. I didn't want to go home. I don't want to go home to my family because I don't want to take anything to them. Right. I don't want to take it to my city if I happen to have it on my clothes or whatever. I don't even know.
A state of emergency has been declared in California. Around the US, there are now cases in at least 20 states. In Maryland, officials said 3 people contracted the disease while traveling overseas. In Washington, the worst affected state, where 11 people have died, tech companies like Amazon, Facebook and Google have told employees to work from home. The US Vice President Mike Pence, who's leading the effort to control the outbreak, visited Washington to meet with state officials.
Our message to families all across the state of Washington is simply this: we're with you. We are here to help, and we're going to stay with you every step of the way until the state of Washington and America sees our way through the coronavirus.
As officials say they expect the number of cases to continue rising, Congress has passed an emergency $8.3 billion spending bill to try to combat the disease. But the financial markets continue to be nervous. On Wall Street, it was another rough day as fears grow of a world economic slowdown linked to the virus. Peter Bowes, BBC News, Los Angeles.
Well, joining me now is Carrie Colstow, who's on board the Grand Princess cruise ship anchored off San Francisco. Hello there, Carrie. Thanks very much for talking to us. I understand that you're due in hospital on Monday. How urgent is that treatment and what are you being told?
The treatment's very urgent. My cancer has progressed shortly before we left home, and the physicians went ahead and patched me up a bit and sent me on this trip so that I could, while they were waiting for insurance approvals. And so it's really imperative that I get there. And really, we're not being told a whole lot, but I don't know whose fault that is because everybody's trying really hard.
Have you been in contact with people on the ship individually and also the Center for Disease Control? What are they telling you? Have you been able to speak to anybody?
No, I was put on a list this afternoon and told that they asked what I needed for minor comfort, and they're trying to accommodate it. It hasn't happened yet, but we're working on it. And then they've told me that I can be put on a list so that if the cruise ship has to stay out to sea for longer, I would be on a list that would be given to the CDC for possible approval to go home. But no, I have only talked to the medical officials on board the cruise ship at this point.
And what kind of help are they offering you, those medical officials? What are the conditions like on board?
Well, they're a little rough. You know, there's 1,100 crew members who are also affected, who are effectively trying to feed and hand bottles of water out. I have bone cancer, it's spread to my bones. I'm trying to get a chair that I can sit on in my stateroom. So just kind of trying for some rudimentary things at this point. Just hoping that, you know, that something will happen here soon.
Are you able to go out onto the balcony and actually get some fresh air? Just how frustrating is it?
It's pretty frustrating. Unfortunately, when we booked our cruise room, I tried to upgrade it, but we didn't get a balcony, but that's my own fault. But anyway, so it's pretty frustrating right now. It sounded like the captain, he talks to us about every 3 or 4 hours, and it sounded like they were working out something with the CDC to maybe go out on walks tomorrow. So we'll see what happens there.
OK, Carrie Colstow Thank you very much for talking to us. We are, of course, also trying to get the latest information, and we'll be bringing you all the latest a little bit later in the programme when we get it. Our correspondents are there trying to find out from officials just what's going on.